So I needed to make this video to go into more details. Hopefully whoever, Michaela or whoever it is, the professionals, can have a little bit more insight. I've covered most of the ground on the situation. Just whenever I draw the images, it's going to show you how I walked and how I engaged with this guy, and how the guy threatened me and my father when I was standing next to my dad. And this guy meant shoot to kill. This guy he gave the look of, I'm gonna kill you if you wanna fuck with me. We can get away with what we want. This is white power. And my father did look scared. He got nervous, like, there's two guys and these guys are white and I'm drunk. And as far as it goes, Frankie, I want to go more details with. I was very stubborn, and when we got the next week, I told Frankie, "What were you doing over there, Frankie? Remember when you went to the bar and you went around there? What were you doing over there?" And I kept on, like, I was in the car. I told him, and I cannot express this type of attitude he's giving. He thinks that having sex with a total stranger, and this feels so disturbing, because I felt that either I saw the shadows like so slightly, or I just approached the situation, and when I moved the curtain, the guy, I want to say, like, I'm at like 50% right now to say that his belt was undone as he was walking away. And like, he would have been on top of Frankie this way. And he would have had him, and he was sort of like making out with him. And Frankie, there was this sort of a kitchen table, or like this, it was all metal. And it was like an all metal, like either kitchen table, like a kitchen sink, or something that they were going to eventually put in the kitchen. But this was kind of in the sort of, because it didn't look like it was part of the kitchen, but it led to the kitchen. And when he walked away, and I saw this very quickly, I saw his belt like undone, and it looked so fast that when they heard me, when I moved, all I could see was like this. And my brother said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "No, nothing. Don't worry about it. No, nothing." And he stood in front of the pool table. He stood, this is going to be so disturbing, because Frankie's going to lose all his credit. To have any type of authority, to have any type of understanding, he is completely obedient to this. We just met this guy. I don't know who this guy was. This was Veterans Night. There was Veterans, like, Tuesdays and Thursdays, or one day out of the week, or something like that. So my dad didn't just drink or whatever 3 days a week, but he started going there about at least 2 days out of the week, maybe even 3. And Frankie, when I'm standing in front of the pool table, I'm stubborn. Like, because it's not that I'm like, you got to understand that I'm around Frankie so often, and he doesn't have any friends, that I know him like clockwork. I understand his clockwork. I understand everything that he does, goes, talks to Ma. I mean, it's because he doesn't have any friends. He's always in his room. And it was always suspicious, because Frankie seemed so submissive. This is before Frankie, who I think was even in karate, or he was right before he got enrolled into karate, or maybe even right like within a few months, because I remember being about 9 to 10 years. I wasn't older than 10 years old. I was anywhere from about, I want to say anywhere from 8 to 10 years old. Like, I don't even think I was 10. I want to say 8 or 9 years old, because Frankie was like 13. And when it was, I don't know, Frankie couldn't have, I don't even think Frankie was even, I know he was 114 because I remember his height. And, you know, whenever I say this, Frankie is like stubbornly, he's so persistent in the way that he's perceiving himself that this is, it's just us, is we're gay. We're just, this is what we do. It's just, someone had invented someone had poisoned his mind, so contaminated, so bad, that I know what this behavior is because I've been around a lot of gay people before, and this goes in work environments. They do this at my job site, all everywhere in life. There's such a strong bond between gay men that it's like a Black Panther or like a Ku Klux Klan signal to one another, and they give each other, they look each other in the eyes and know that, oh, you're gay too, oh, you're one of us. And it doesn't necessarily they're gonna fuck each other. It's just that there's an understanding that they fuck men and they're never gonna have children of their own, and it's like an existence that no other people understand. And it's like a secret community. It's like an agreement of allies immediately. Like you're one of, oh, you know we're gay, you know. Like it's, I'm not kidding you. I've studied this a billion fucking times. And the way that is, Frankie immediately looked like he was engulfed in this homosexuality, LBG pride. The same way, because when the guy walked, he walked out of the room and he walked right by me. And I don't know how long Frankie was in that room playing pool, because Frankie was in that pool room for probably not very long before somebody did something to him. Because I was just literally within the distance, you know, playing some games, and I walked, and you know, and when I walked to the pool table, within a few minutes, there's a guy that walked by the pool table, and he gradually walked by the table, real casual, sort of engaging in this homosexuality, like, this is what we do, you know, you're one of us, like, and this is what happened. Okay, so as far as I had to go with this, I told Frankie in the car, and I remember my dad looked over at him. He goes, "What?" Because my dad was sort of passive about it, and he was in the car, and he like, "What? What were you doing?" He goes, "You were in the," and Frankie was like in the back seat, and he was like, "No, we're not. We didn't do anything. I was just nothing. We didn't do anything," and he was completely like. He was just on a different planet, on that anything wrong was going on and that he wanted it to happen. I have never seen Frankie do this before. This type of behavior did seem something like when I say I hadn't seen this type of thing, this was very different because Miguel, I remember punking him out and charging at him. And I thought when I was a kid, I thought he was like just trying to man him up or just trying to like make him manly, like assured of himself. Because remember, he was in karate. But I remember it was such a frequent thing when you'd walk his dog and bounce his basketball. But when Frankie got raped at my Tia Leach's house, and I went looking for him, and I started beating on the bathroom. I said, is Frankie in there? What are you doing, Frankie? And Frankie was like, "Oh no, Hector, we're just doing something right now. We're fixing a cabinet or some shit like that." And he sounded very submissive. This is when I got poisoned and my mother got taken because this guy fucked my brother. And I remember there was like these marshmallows or these chlorine pill, like massive like chalk-looking pills or something, inside this container that that little thing that goes inside the pool that puts chlorine inside the water and it just floats around. Well, he was pointing at this. This is after he raped Frankie, and Frankie was like this, and he was like, "Oh," and his eyes were kind of red, but the guy was training him like, "Oh, you see, yeah, you see," like, and it's a very engaging homosexual. It's straight pedophile. I don't know how to express this enough. It's 100% pedophile. I've been raped before. it lasted so fast and so quick with my uncle. Like, the only person that really had any chance to engage in this type of practice, like the behavior, really intense, or so that I could enough for me to understand it, was my uncle, who ended up dying and killing himself after it happened. My grandpa died because he would do these practices in order to make sure that what he was doing wasn't a bad thing and it was okay and it was our little secret because it's just a little boo-boo. And this is how they engage with the child to make him think this way. And it's very soothing in the way that they speak. It is not aggressive. It is to agree and ally with this type of behavior. This is 100%. So when Frankie, I noticed that I was looking at this guy, and Frankie was just like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, but he doesn't register that what this is behavior is, because like I talked about, that this guy was walking back and forth and he was all about fucking Frankie. I mean, my mother looked right at this guy. He looked over at my mother and he's like, bitch, I got you. And he looked over at Frankie, and my mom actually got scared in front of me with Lee Child, the child rapist, Frankie, and me, and looked over at him, was directly looking at him. My mom was making direct eye contact with him and know that what he was doing. And she goes like, oh no, and she didn't turn her head to look over and point to us. She go, oh no, and she goes like this, keeping her eyes locked on him. And she goes, oh no, that's my son, and these are my son. And she's looking at him very piercing, like, no, this is mine. This is my son. And this is what she's doing. So this behavior that when I'm in the pool, area, the Santa Claus looking guy looks like real short, blonde hair, blue eyes, white guy, belly, looks like a construction worker. He was wearing jeans. He's wearing a t-shirt. I think he was wearing boots. The other guy was wearing jeans. I think a brown t-shirt, but he was wearing like a shirt. He was wearing a shirt for sure. And he had short brown hair, brown eyes. He was a white guy. These are like country guys. And so when I walked in there, that guy did get pissed off and put the pool table, and he looked at this guy like he was going to kill him, because Frankie, when I first engaged with him, he was like, he looked at me like I was a fucking total distance person, like fuck you, we're gay. And I go back and I go, Dad, it smells like over there or some shit. And then this is when this guy, like, first this guy gets up, the white guy, and he notices when I walk in there. And I don't know if it's because he's caught this guy having sex with another child, or he knew that this guy was dangerous. So he goes in there and he looked at this motherfucker like he was gonna kill him, like crazy. So as he the guy sort of just looks at him and he's like, oh, okay. So he goes over there, and then the white guy turns and I go over to my dad or something. I can't remember if I walked over to him or I was still standing in the doorway, and he walks in. And this is where the guy gets the pool table and he goes like this. And he puts the pool table, and when he's there, he's protecting the homosexual because he thinks maybe my dad may do something, or thinks that he is going to want to do something or do something to the guy, or he's completely protecting the rapist. You could smell it. And he hits the pool so that it's in my direction and my father's, as then Frankie either walks by me into the other room, or he's still around, I think, or he's still around the pool table, like standing somewhere. And this is what he does. So it's an immediate threat. It's an immediate and aggressive, like, can you imagine like somebody hitting something very hard in front of you? It's an aggressive act of aggression and control. So I wanted to say this because I was very stubborn about it. I told Frankie, like, the next day, it's like, what were you doing? And I was so worried about it because I was like, what were you doing over there with that guy? And because gosh, it bothers me so much because it's like I'm like 60% at feeling of, maybe it's like, feel like it's getting higher, like 65 to 70. I saw the belts as he was walking away. His pants had already been pulled up because it was like fast, like, and Frankie was like, "Oh, we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything." And I know that Frankie had no business there for any kind of reason. And I don't know if it was, but when I walked into the front of the pool table back in the room and I was looking at Frankie and it smelled so bad, I was like, and I was just looking at him, and the guy kind of came out from the side and he signaled to Frankie. And then Frankie kind of goes like this, like it was his boyfriend or something. Like I was defending his boyfriend. His sex was being taken away from him, or what he wanted. So when he looks over at this guy, signals to him like, yeah, cover us up. Like I gave you something special. Remember, I gave you something special. This is exactly what's happening. And I'm looking directly at Frankie. His behavior is completely off the wall. Like something's wrong. Like the people that are doing this to him are doing this and controlling his head and thinking that this was normal and this is okay. This is what happens to you because you're supposed to give us that and we're supposed to do that. So I want to say this because Ken Cooper and Sarah Cooper will collect the money and credit from this and strip it along for the white supremacy continuously. And I can't express this enough that the reason that this continued to happen when Ken Cooper showed up and brought his gun. Remember when I talked about Ken Cooper showed up in his police uniform and he didn't tell my dad and he didn't tell my mom and he goes vacation with Las Vegas with my dad and then he goes to Sarah Cooper and Sarah Cooper's acting like a bitch and this is about 3 to 2 years before my dad commits suicide. This is exactly why I talk about how Sarah and Ken Cooper did this intentionally because they used the ideas so much at the ideas of my mother cannot use a healthy brain function to protect and is such in a submissive situation so that they can allow Miguel get away and they can cover up their own homosexuality and whatever secret and that they want to do and they want to do it for Michael Jackson and Sarah Cooper gets what she wants and then okay, well just don't worry about it, we just give a coupon this time. I'm telling you right now, there's nothing in this world that you're ever going to be able to put Ken and Sarah Cooper in front of my mother without the ultimate, because you just didn't do this to the me, you did directly to her, and they're covering it up. They're going to lie. I'm telling you, had I known this, I would have never allowed them in the hospital while I was dying. I would have never talked to them. I would have never, but I cannot express this enough that President Barack Obama is directly responsible for allowing this to happen with his police units and platoon that he's doing. This is 100% what this pig, and let me tell you something, Kenneth Cooper from the radio station is 100% responsible because you don't know how much information I was releasing to Kenneth when I was around him by myself, went to his apartment just a number of times. When I went to his apartment a number of times, I was telling him, oh yeah, I bet somebody looks like, my dad's identical twin. Oh, do you know I have a brother named Mark? My mom had one more other kid. Oh, do you know that Julian, he told me one time, my mom told me one time he had a twin or something like that. I don't know, it'd be crazy if he did, right? And he knows that I don't know about Julian's twin. So he's using the dead little girl, my blood sister, as a weapon to make sure that, yeah. And I remember him saying this in the car, just let him bury himself. Yeah, just let him bury himself. I cannot express how dark and cynical that he's like that piece of shit, dude, that raised him and his fucking mother. But I cannot express this enough. Ken and Sarah Cooper did this intentionally and knew about it. I'm going outside and working guest services here at Crescent Butte, and they're covering it up and they're lying. They're going to the grocery store and speaking on behalf of Ken Cooper, saying that he doesn't know anything. He's lying, and they're doing this to teams. The psychologist and the team people that are doing this are all lying to make sure that he gets what he wants. His faggot, and this worthless piece of shit motherfucker that Sarah and Ken can pass it over this white supremacy and the platoon mascot over to Madison and their fucking kids, and just to shame me for it. I cannot express this enough that there's no more dark. It's so sickening to what this behavior is. You don't understand that Ken Cooper is joking, manipulating my father in front of me when he knows about the rapes. So is Sarah Cooper. I could draw you out every single fucking corner. Sarah Cooper was laughing, leaning over toward Miguel, looking at me when Frankie was in his uniform. Because she did it right in front of everybody, letting you know she knows about that rape. She knew about the rape whenever she pointed over and went like this, pointing at my dad's suicide. When it all happened, she goes like this for just a moment because she was thinking, oh, I know that Miguel raped Frankie. Oh, I forgot about that. Because she may think, because she didn't know if my mother was smart enough to understand that Miguel had raped Frankie several times. That's why. Ken and Sarah Cooper knew about this. I could never express this enough. This is why Ken Cooper charged over at my mother on one side of the room, and so did Sarah. And my mother was talking to Frankie, saying, "Don't trust them. They're fucking people. Don't. We need to keep the family together." It was my mother. I'd never seen my mother shaking this much in a rage or nervous. I never in my life, other than her being held hostage and hearing Frankie raped in front of her and being pulled a knife, I've never seen my mother in this type of situation, ever in my life. And this is why Ken Cooper did this when we were at the nursing home. He goes like this, and he charges at my mother, and then he goes like this, like, oh. And he does this because he's looking at my mother to find out if he can tell by looking at her, if, oh, Miguel, oh, maybe she doesn't know. So that maybe he's looking and he can gauge this way, the way that he's doing his detective behavior. I know what I'm telling you when I'm saying this. He and Sarah Cooper intentionally did this to set the mind and fuel to let it boil in there. So I want to say this very clearly. Kenneth Cooper is 100% new about this, responsible as well, and was mutilating my dead sister. I'm saying this because he's going over to Kenneth, he's mutilating my mother even more. And he's going with the black niggas because let me tell you how hip-hop works. Because, it's just, fuck you. So I can never express this enough. They knew from the very beginning. They didn't report it to the police. They didn't start an investigation. They didn't tell my mother and father. For the next 7 or 8 years, there was nothing but rapes. I was responsible. If you want to think that I'm some kind of hero, you can. Well, that's exactly what I did because I shooed the guy away. And I was putting a lot of pressure on Frankie. Who did this? What were you doing over there? And I told Frankie, I want to say I was even, if God, I hope that Frankie's, it's the meditation that I hope Frankie's fine, that he will be able to tell you, like if he tells it has to do complete, a complete expunge of all this information. I told him, he goes, I saw that guy like unzipping his pants or he like had his belt on, and I told Frankie this, and he got real quiet because he didn't know how much I actually saw. I just saw because all the lights were turned off and the kitchen light was from the distance. So in this little area, like this little area where he was raping Frankie was probably about 20 feet long to about 8 feet wide. And in this area, and then after the 20 feet, there was a door where it went into the kitchen, and there wasn't a door. It wasn't a door at all. So the light was coming at it from there, and everything there was dark. And then there was a sheet that was right. So whenever I approached the situation, you could kind of see a little bit about what was going on. And I told Frankie, I was like, I saw that guy like unzipping his pants, like he had his belt, like he was removing his belt. So I want to say this very clearly, because I know that Sarah Cooper and Kenneth will get their glory from this, and President Barack Obama is responsible for sending his homosexuals and his transgender faggot piece of shit daughter for the glories that they're going to get this for. They're not going to be sent to prison. They're not going to be shamed any harder than me, my mother, and everything that's happened. This is a full-blown racial supremacy. This is to help Madison. This is to help Taylor Swift and the white supremacy of the public. Oh, I'm the next Michael Jackson making the movement. I can show you, I can never express enough what you don't understand, the humility, the disgusting acts. This is literally grabbing your dead body sister for my fucking money. And this is what Taylor Swift, they're doing things like going on videos, moving her head like, oh, your mom, and then hugging a Mexican girl. Oh, yeah, bring that white trash right over. Oh, it's your fucking money. No, that's it. This is something that my mother's field of work doesn't.
my mother's existence of life or any of my brothers have no existence of understanding. I was an entertainer for a very long time, going to clubs, engaging. I can map these out, motherfuckers, like a sniper blasting Barack Obama's head off with the intent of killing him. I'm telling you, I can bullet size these motherfuckers. And what they're doing is they're mutilating the dead little girl, just like these people are, and everyone else for the supremacy. Michaela, you can think what you want. I know your mother's white. I don't know if your mom gets a chance to watch these videos, but this is why they're doing this, because it will cause a separation. It will cause you to think different toward me and everything of the situation, and sort of shuffle you to where they want to place you, because you are the father, you are the mother of a half Mexican child, and you're white and German. So, Michaela, that's also going to affect you. But you got to understand that this is your dead sister as well. I don't know how much you give a fuck or how much you understand. Now, I haven't said this ever before on another video, but when Marissa or Miranda was, I don't even know her name, was buried, whatever ceremony was ever held, I can't even imagine if that woman showed up to the funeral when my mother was there, because that woman was pitting my sister, my mother's child who had Down syndrome, bad. And if she was hitting that child, can you imagine you burying your child or in the hospital seeing the person that was hitting your child? Let me tell you something, and I talked about this. I went to CC's, and I've said this story a few times. I went to CC's many, many, many years ago. Making me pass gas. I went to CC's a long time ago. When we went there, and I talked about my mother, she started to cry. She couldn't even get up to go kiss or hug or touch her child, while she had pizza all over her face, just doing this. I mean, when you talk about Down syndrome, this Down syndrome was the worst you can ever see. My mother didn't want to even get up off her table. Do you see how Ken Cooper's representative was over behind my mother? And I think it was whenever I went to the Twin Festival. That I went to the Twin Festival, and I think Taylor Swift was there for the white supremacy to steal whatever dead body she can from Madison, and the white supremacy, right? You get your white shit out of here. And what she's doing, there was another guy there that looked exactly, and I went there and I think I got a couple like coupon tickets or some shit, or I went to go ask for directions, and it looked exactly like this motherfucker that was in his tent. It looked just like him that was over there at CC's. So I want to say this very clearly, because this is how my mother this guy threatened me and my mother. My mother didn't even want to go up, and she was crying there. I said, "What's wrong, Mom? What's wrong?" Now imagine your kid dying, and the cleansing that this woman is beating your child, and it's a transgender. My mother's already been raped over there several times. Oh, okay. Just bury the dead child for you in the transgender community, right? Because in that way, yeah, it's just, remember the Bible? That's why they put the church and all that other garbage shit over there. You understand? To see, my mother is burying her own child, and this woman is the one beating it. So not only you beat the child's not actually dead, and you're wheeling down this little coffin or whatever, however she was buried. We're gonna have a Ken Cooper funeral and a story here, a Marshall story for Madison. Just like Madison was making fun of my dead sister when I was at Walmart, and she's gonna look like an angel because she's doing angel work for her too, huh? And she can staple it. That's why I made that boat. It's a temporary boat, because you had no idea how pig infested these pieces of shit. Doesn't matter how bad it is, they're more comfortable than I was. I was living on the streets. Nobody understands 8, 9, 10 people I saved my brother from. All stopped, poison, attack. Nothing for Michael Jackson. Now Michael Jackson cleans up for Keno. At least you didn't get it, because that's for Kenneth and the white supremacy in the police department. This guy's locking up people for 30 or 40, 50, 60 years being a detective. There's 8 rapists. If there would have been a police call, I guarantee you there would have been no rapes that would have happened, because they would have got this guy. Do you see now why? They're all covering up for Sarah and Ken. That's what they're doing. You have no idea how bad this really was between my mother. And I got accused because they're turning all this information and anything they get their hands on to benefit Kenneth, Michelle, and Madison. So these fucking pieces of shit, they're all for their fucking pig-infested parents. They're just stealing and stripping from my mother and whatever is left of remaining. Now, that's what I wanted to say about a few things. And as far as Frankie getting raped, I told Frankie, talk to Frankie. I told Frankie this. Frankie's gonna get shocked he's really gonna get shocked whenever you tell him this. He's gonna be like, how the fuck Hector remember that? Because I told him, and I said, I saw that guy with his belt off. I said, I saw that guy walking with his belt off or something. Did something happen? Because when I looked, I looked and he just kind of sort of approached me very quickly because he didn't want me to say anything. Like and he didn't have the expression of anger. It was just like you know how like somebody gets caught and he's totally normal or something? That's what he was doing. It wasn't until like we walk and I said, what are you doing? And when he approached me, it was like I could smell. It wasn't the anal cavity. It was like, you know how like, you can maybe tell somebody was making out a whole bunch and their saliva glands are exchanging. That's what it smelled like. And that's how he approached me. Like his face and everything, it looked like he was doing something with another person. It looked fixated. That's what it looked like. I didn't see saliva that I could remember, but when he approached me very quickly, his eyes and presence looked like it was some sort of intimate look, intimate sexual behavior that he was doing. I didn't actually see the thing. I just saw the guy walking away very quickly, and his pants had already been pulled up, but his belt was still hanging on both ends. So that's what I have to say about that. Christian Avell wants to claim he's given my mother a present, and just like the guy's already hit me in my kneecap. David is also the name David. My Marissa's or Miranda's father, Ivan's dad, who was living in that house, is also named David. This is why this guy is named Dave. He hit me and it struck me and I reported it. The reason he's doing that is because of my mother. The reason he's doing this is because he knows it's Christmas, and he's doing this also for Ken Cooper to play this psychological thing. So, like I said, I guess this whole situation is to give him the trophy because Christian Avell, Michael, this guy, they're all doing this. They're mutilating the dead little girl, my mom, the rapes that happened, and they're strictly, I'm not kidding you, that they're all cornering me at the same time, and there's these big window crucifix looking, it looks like a giant crucifix, and they're standing in front of it. One guy's there, and I'm standing right here, and they're both standing like this, like, yeah, oh, we tell you what the fuck you're going to worship, you see, and they're going and just engaging in religious persecutions against me. That's all he's doing. He's doing some of the most darkest, cynical, mind-infested things you can ever imagine. That's all 100% related to the rapes of Frankie, my dead sister, and my mother. That's all. Nothing more. But President Barack Obama is responsible for the rape that happened with Patricia and everything that he's doing. He is ordering this with the psychologists because they could tell him to shut the fuck up. They're shooting me with electronic devices so that I stay submissive to their religious practices. When I'm not a Christian, I'm not your Catholic, I'm none of your garbage shit. So they're doing this in teams. So I wanted to say this very clearly. Like I said, I built that boat with the intentions with that person having the hammer because that's what Madison was doing. She's the one hammering that little girl, saying who gets the dead body credit. It just keeps going. Remember, this is going to be a nasty war. Michaela, please be careful. You have no idea who you're fucking with. You're going to have to get your firearms. You're going to have to pull up every ammunition to protection, your family. Madison, Kenneth, and Cooper's, they're sitting there. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be that bad. It's going to be that bad. And you're not going to like it. But if not, then it is what it is. We throw another dead body in the casket. Because that's what's going to happen. The President of the United States, Barack Obama, is responsible for doing this and allowing it. And he's going to get his last laugh. And he's continuing to do it.